affirmative action. Caucasian men make up 48% of college-educated workforce, but hold over 90% of top jobs in new media, 96% in CEO positions, 86% in law firm partnerships, and 85% of tenured college faculty positions. How do we level the playing field? Affirmative action. HR managers should look at your company's history and show progress by giving examples of how minorities succeeded in the workplace. And that way they can measure diversity and see what actions may be needed. It's important if your company is required to participate or submit an affirmative action plan. In 1965, government contractors have been required to document their affirmative action programs through compliance reports containing information regarding their practices, policies, programs, and employment statistics of contractors and each subcontractor. The enforcement of this is conducted by the Department of Labor's Office of Federal Contract Compliance and Programs, the OFCCP. They hold those who do business with the federal government responsible for complying with legal requirements to take affirmative actions and not to discriminate. Their mission is to protect workers, promote diversity, and enforce the law of not discriminating on the basis of race, color, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, national origin, disability, or status of protected veterans. Next, I'm going to talk about non-construction employers and how non-construction employers need to have at least 50 employees or government contracts, that are worth at least $50,000. They're required to document their affirmative action practices and metrics. This includes employers with at least 50 employees and several small contracts that add up to $50,000. The EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, is responsible for enforcing federal laws that make it illegal to discriminate against job applicants or an employee because of a person's race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, disability, or genetic information. Their mission is to stop and remedy unlawful discrimination. It is illegal to discriminate against a person because they complained or filed a charge or participated in a discrimination investigation or lawsuit. Most employers with at least 15 employees are covered by EEOC laws. Education. Recipients of federal funds are required to document their affirmative action practices and metrics. Educational institutes who are guilty of discrimination in the past must take affirmative action as a remedy. The Office of Civil Rights enforces the following anti-discrimination laws, and I'm just going to mention a couple. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Age Discrimination Act of 1975, Title IX of the Educational Amendments of 1972, and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. And Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. The Office of Civil Rights Act, a sub-agency of the Department of Education, mission is to ensure that equal access to education and to promote educational excellence through vigorous enforcement of civil rights in our nation's schools. So now we want to understand global distinction. Because different countries have different legal standards, measures, and requirements of which global organizations must be acquainted with. Laws against discrimination exist in many countries across the globe with two different principles. The principle of equal opportunity, where employers need to provide a level playing field for all groups and minorities without discrimination, and the principle of reservation, where laws mandate a percentage quota or other special consideration for specific minority groups or ethnic communities. Affirmative action has different names, and it also has different targets across the globe. In the UK, it's called positive discrimination. It applies to 9 protected characteristics: age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage and civil partnership, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion or belief, sex or sexual orientation. In Canada, affirmative action is referred to as employment equity. Improved employment opportunities for 4 designated groups, where women, people with disability, Aboriginal people, and visible minorities, and they classify that as those who are African American, Asian, or Hispanics. In India, it's reservations. The quotas are to promote employment of designated underprivileged groups based on their historic caste. So in conclusion, affirmative action is a statutory requirement. The need for affirmative action is confirmed by data. Government contractors and subcontractors must participate, and non-government contractors with 50 or more employees and contracts of $50,000. Educational institutes who receive federal funds must comply. The enforcing agencies are the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Program, Equal Opportunity Commission, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, Office of Civil Rights, and affirmative action is global with different legal standards and requirements. So about me, I haven't experienced discrimination on the workplace, but as a Hispanic female, I'm sure there were some that I wasn't aware of. But I can say that I am for affirmative action. In the past, the country has done its share of discrimination. If Americans don't realize that diversity is just as important as the bottom line, our legal system will have to step in and remind them. We need people of different backgrounds to benefit from a range of different ideas and experience. So diversity is not going anywhere, so let's do what we can to embrace it. Next is Stacy.
Hi guys, my name is Stacy Erasmus. I'm going to talk to you guys about the steps of making an affirmative action plan and how Rowan University deals with diversity. Affirmative action is used in many different universities and companies. It's used in several, like 100 around the country and around the world. The point of all this is to give underprivileged people the opportunity to excel in life. Federal and state laws regulate how schools use affirmative action, which schools try to fight and alter in court. Schools aren't always a fan of affirmative action because they believe they shouldn't be biased to students who can't reach their academic standards. A few states have fought against affirmative action successfully. Oklahoma, Arizona, Nebraska, Texas, and Florida all ban or limit affirmative action. Affirmative action mostly applies to schools with low diversity. A mostly white school will seem like they're biased, which they probably are, which hurts the school's image as well. To have a well thought out affirmative action plan, there has to be an examination of policies to make sure they are non-discriminatory, and there will also be corrective action where needed. Included in this would be an examination of recruitment practices to make sure all candidates for a position have the opportunity to be considered fairly and provide internal grievance to those who believe they have been discriminated against. Designing the plan. The faculty should play a major part in making the affirmative action plan. Attention must be paid to policies about the tenure, promotion, benefits, salaries, and other areas where different biases can happen. The most difficult part of an affirmative action is making goals and timetables that are not only realistic, but serves as an incentive to maximum effort and equality. Implementing the plan. The university should establish an affirmative action officer to start off. The affirmative action officer plays a role in doing normal action procedures, the promotion, the tenure, and salary determinations. There should be a constant review of their actions by a public disclosure. Support of faculty should be relevant, important, and seriously taken into consideration. Recruitment. Plans for recruitment of minorities and women should be developed by each department and approved by the affirmative action officer. Departments can establish goals in appointing minorities. Plans for recruitment should include advertising in appropriate publications like newsletters of minorities or women's groups and in organizations for minorities and or women. Job postings should be clear in expectations, duties, and other responsibilities. Search committees can and should ask minorities and women for suggestion of candidates. In recruiting, the standards should be the same for all candidates and no one should be judged. The committee should also carefully read letters of reference for any hints of biases. Also, just because a pool of minorities and women candidates for a certain position is small doesn't mean there shouldn't be an attempt to recruit such candidates. Screening of the candidates. The search committee should have made every effort to include a diversity of candidates at this point. After reviewing the candidates' credentials and letters of recommendation, candidates could be asked for an interview. When possible, the affirmative action officer should be invited to meet with a minority or woman candidate. It's important for candidates to know that there are current faculty who are minorities and women. Appointments and professional advancement. Job offers to minorities and women candidates should be made as attractive as possible. Denial of advancement because of sexual or racial qualifications is inappropriate and breaches expectations. Because minority and women faculty at institutions are often low, it's important to make them feel welcomed. Retention and monitoring the plan. When terminating a faculty member because of low funds or shutting down a program, judgments on who to terminate must involve affirmative action and faculty status. The same careful examination must be given to retrenchment as to those used in appointment, promotion, and tenure. It's important to make sure affirmative action is followed in search for new faculty also. Progress in hiring women and minority persons in higher education has been slow. Unequal treatment of underrepresented groups continues, and there's still a large gap between men and women faculty members in regards to salary. Discrimination is still relevant, and affirmative action plans are still necessary. Rowan University is a great diverse school because of its affirmative action. The Rowan University Affirmative Action / Workforce Development Plan, the AAWDP, allows members of the campus community to It explains action steps and principles. It reaffirms a commitment to make sure the campus is rich and diverse environment. Rowan is constantly monitoring their policies to make sure there's fair and equal opportunities for promotions for its employees within the employee laws, State of New Jersey Administrative Code, and labor contracts. They're constantly changing and adding to it, trying to perfect it. Rowan is taking steps to enhance the diversity of Rowan by putting postings in the Asian, Pacific American, and Higher Education Issues journals, journals of Blacks in Higher Education, Diverse Magazine, Minorities and Women in Business, Hispanic Career World Magazine, and many more publications. Rowan is taking steps for affirmative action within the Division of Health Sciences by putting job postings in publications with high minority readers. They're going to publicize job opportunities throughout campus, especially to student organizations with high involvements of minorities. They're going to provide a diversity awareness workshop as well as part of the winter retreat for all staff in the Office of the Research. There will also be an affirmative action plan applied to Rowan's Department of Public Safety and Emergency Management. They will be recruiting applicants of underrepresented minorities. Rowan even mentions it lost 2 of its minority individuals due to retirement and resignation. Well, resignation went to a different police area. The athletic department is also trying to ensure equality when hiring new employees. They've been reaching out to alumni and the Office of Equity and Diversity to advertise in areas that will add to the minority applicant pool. They're looking to promote minority and female coaching positions. They recently promoted a female to Associate Athletic Director, which is a pretty big position, so it's a positive step towards women having more important roles here at Rowan. To increase diversity anywhere, institution, any company, wherever, it's important to expand and outreach and recruitment of diverse populations. It requires an effort to raise awareness of employment opportunities. Posting in publications targeting minority populations is important, and reaching out to organizations with diverse representation is also essential. My experience with affirmative action is actually my scholarship program. I'm a part of Achieving the Dream Scholarship Program, and I didn't really apply to it. They reached out to me when I got accepted into Rowan, and it's basically a way to help students in high school who did sports and activities and were in clubs and everything. It helped us actually. It gives us meetings every week and helps us try to excel in life. Gives us not an advantage, but kind of lessons on how to excel in school and in the workforce. And it's mostly targeted towards minority students. And that's all. Thank you.
Couple things, don't leave yet, and he was doing the Hussein